Hello, you folks. This is Cole, and I'm inspired to continue sharing my experiences with this material called Right Use of Will, and my experience with it. The next chapter after the introduction is called Right Use of Will. As I've said before, it could be helpful at the beginning to think of the word will associated more with the part of us that only feels. We clearly have a thinking part of ourselves which thinks it's very evolved because of the incredible amount of information that's available for it to entertain itself with. And then there is a part of us that only feels, that's a feeling part of us that is not so evolved on a planet at the moment. Of course, there are cases where the right use of will was discovered in a way and evolved, accepted before that, and evolved into its right use. As one would say, it's kind of a bit of a dry name, but it just works. So I'll just continue with reading and see what inspires to be said. And before I start reading, I'd like to say that it's very important to remember the very beginning of the book, which says, if this book is for you, you will know it just through the introduction. It really suggests that this is not for everyone, and it could be not for you at this point, could be for you one day. For me, it comes, and it also goes, because for me, personally, this has enriched my feeling part of the self. But I do like other things that inspire other things, and other aspects of expansion, like the Urantia book, or Curse of Love, particularly because the heart's presence is so important at the moment, and it's a little bit easier on us to grasp than this particular body of work, which really focuses a lot on the feeling aspect of the self. But it also suggests that it's important to allow ourselves to be triggered. Tiny little annoyances are nothing but a veil drawn across an intense fury. So we trained ourselves not to access this fury, and so now we're suffering the consequences of that decision. And it is only because we judged this aspect of ourselves called fury and pushed it back. And now we have this presentation faces saying like, I'm not furious. So yeah, so this is really very much about accessing this other part of ourselves that only feels. And I like saying that. It's actually written in the 5th book. It's mentioned beautifully where Mother finally speaks. And she says, I'm your mother and I'm going to tell you some things you didn't want to know. Or something like that. And then she says, I only feel. And if it wasn't for the Father, there'd be no book here. And that really shocked me into going, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Because like I say, feelings don't talk. Talking about feelings is a good start, but it can be never-ending talking about feelings. And feelings have an amazing capacity to communicate when they are opened, when they are in movement. And I also like to remind you that, because you might go, well, of course I feel. Yes, you do. And there is a difference between a feeling that's observed and a feeling that is actually in flow. A feeling that it's memory, like if you say sadness. Where does that come from, right? In this moment, it comes from memory, right? And around this memory, we have associated stories of many kinds. They're all different in each of us. However, this is a sadness that's probably a frozen image rather than the actual feeling. Now, when any feeling is genuinely met with a loving acceptance of its own spirit and releases all the past associations to this feeling, the feeling transforms into a flowing energy, flowing light in ourselves, which then enriches life in a way that wasn't known before. Beautiful. Some cicadas coming. And a minute ago there was like some kind of buzzard. Everything's so alive. It's 27th of December today when I'm recording this. And the weather's beautiful. I'm looking out at this exquisite countryside. There's just trees. Everything's just green. I see nothing else but green. So let me get into this. Right use of will. It's the first chapter after the introduction. And it brings back the very beginning of the introduction, which it says, the unconditional love of the Spirit is understood by many on earth at present. There is another energy, though, that is also part of the divine creation, which has not yet been fully understood. Divine will. And then it goes, the will expresses as feelings. Now, let's just allow ourselves to feel whatever we're feeling right now. What's the feeling part of you doing in this very moment? And see if you could, instead of going down into the feelings, simply step back and just allow feeling to inform, like inform, yeah, inform you of it now, not from the past. We're not looking to name it. We don't look to judge it. We're interested. We're saying, okay, let me find out what this is all about. Maybe there is something behind this that I don't know yet. This I could guarantee. Yeah. Now, just step back and allow feeling to expand. This is easily done just by saying, okay, I step back and let the feeling lead the way. Let the feeling become a part of our existence more than we ever allowed it before. If you do this for a certain period of time, you might find that this exquisite part of ourselves, which we call unconscious or subconscious, because we're not conscious of it, or subconscious, that we don't go to those places, and it becomes our participant in our daily life. It will, after a while, enhance our way of knowing things differently. For example, I can just hear someone's voice and go, ah, I would have not noticed that before. Something else informs me of what's behind it. Where is that coming from? It becomes more tangible. Because feelings could have been blocked or not allowed to be the participant in our daily movement. All of a sudden there is as if more of you coming. Again, this is not a guided meditation of any kind. It's simply just an invitation to allow feeling to bless our day, really. At some point, the feelings that are born now begin to flow. This is a part of us that we call the mother. Well, very familiar with the father of all creation, the masculine aspect of creation. But what about the mother? What about the will? The will is rarely really understood for what it truly is. And so we have these 8 exquisite books helping us to reconnect to this vast aspect of ourselves. And then it says the spirit and the will are partners in the body and must find their balance in the heart. Oh, I could just cry right now. Oh. So here are the 4 parts mentioned again. In the introduction says, I'm one God, but I have 4 parts. Yeah, spirit, this part of us that thinks, masculine, or electric, thought, and will, which is feeling, the feminine, the mother, magnetic, say magnetic, what? Magnetic. Again, magnetic is the part of you that's pure magnetism. That which draws to you everything that it is holding. Magnetic. Also, how it works is that when we're inspired by a thought, the next step, it should be the will that will manifest this thought to its maximal expression. All expressions of love are maximal if they are deeply felt and expressed to the max. Now, this requires no effort on our part if we can step back, let the feeling do its thing, let the feeling extend. So this will has to be allowed to be itself. It's like a revelation. It births the newness of the moment. Now when these two, spirit and a will, which are the partners in the body, I'll come back to that, who have to find balance in the heart. So if the mind is overpowering your body, means you're living upstairs, I call it, for lack of a better word, and not living downstairs, because higher is better. There is no way there is balance in the heart. Like father and a son is really the mind and the heart. However, without a mother, without Mary, there is no Jesus. Without will, there is no real heart. An idea of heart, yes, but the real heart can only be born out of mother birthing it. The magnetic part of the heart. And all of this is experienced in the body. It will explain later that the way we see the body now, it's a very dense part of light. We slowed ourselves down until we became physical. That physical slowed everything down enormously. And so everything is very slow and dense. If the body has not found the alignment of spirit and a will balancing in the heart, then every cell is balancing whatever's predominant. Now, this is not a confrontation, but where do you live more in a day in what you call your body? Point to it. Where is all the energy concentrated right now? Is it more in your legs and your belly? Or in your heart? Or is it all upstairs? You might go, but what is down there? Not much. Well, that's the misperception of creation. Because downstairs is way more fun than upstairs. When it's discovered. This, for some, could be fearful, because the mind is all we know. Upstairs is the only realm. But what if it's all very different? So this is really the journey of discovering of the mother principle, you know, the feminine aspect of us. Once I did a series on feminine principle, and somebody was very upset because, like, who you as a man, you know who you think you are to talk about feminine principle. Well, the truth is, the masculine sees the feminine better than it sees itself. However, feminine sees the masculine way better than masculine can see itself. And here comes the idea of perfect equality. Because without the will, spirit is blind, and the world is reflecting that in a major way right now, and vice versa. So it is actually the feeling that make a man present. Yeah. But it's a spirit, it's a masculine that allows the will to be open, and either opens her or shuts her down. Every little thought, movement, she will respond instantly, cause and effect, never separate. Yeah. So this is another perspective of looking at it. So perfect alignment between spirit and the will find balance in the heart, and the body will reflect it. Now, I read on. If there is any disease or aging in the body, the spirit and the will are at odds in some way. If there is balance between spirit and a will, only health, agelessness, and vitality are manifested, and the physical plane is no longer experienced as cut off from any other plane of existence. So really, the search for God is really the search for the will. Because when she returns, the search is over. We never look for anything outside ourselves. And we're looking for the wholeness within ourselves. When I feel whole, there is no search of any kind. You discover yourself, capital S. Yeah, because you balanced your spirit, your will, and your heart is born. Which is the Christ in you, or which is depends on what terminology you like using. It's that part of you that balances this magnetic field of electromagnetic alignment. Yeah, when you have two magnets, you might have seen these graphics where you look at the magnets and it shows this field around it, and it's perfect alignment. The minute one of the magnets goes slightly off, the other one goes off, and the field goes off. So to perfectly harmonize within a self, we need the minus, we need the feeling self, which is what we call the negative. But then on earth, negative is often also falls on the false assumption that it is undesirable. You know, that's why people often focus on positive. Let's focus on positive. Huh? But what's happening? They're denying the negative, right? So the minute we divide the world into good and evil, we kick ourselves out of paradise, which means we just lost this inner alignment, this wholeness. And now one is good and the other one is not. and then we blame God for it. Yeah. But it's really us. We're doing this to ourselves. So when we connect to all these four parts, we're no longer cut off from any plane of existence. Like it says, God has many mansions. We connect to things. We connect to Supreme Being. We connect to anything we desire. Yeah. Because it is all one. But we have to be aligned with ourselves to be able to tune into everything else that's available. Everyone on earth today has undermined his will in some way. This undermining of the will is equal to lost, unconditional love. Now, what's the cause? This undermining of the will is equal to lost, unconditional love. Then, for anyone that is not accepting part of himself unconditionally is not truly loving unconditionally. The will in many people is now seeking alignment. Many people on earth can learn the balance of spirit and will and are, in fact, already moving in this direction. It could be easily judged then that the teachings of right use of will isn't essential, that things will just take care of themselves. However, help for the process is actually necessary, and some people wanted this help so that they can move faster. Others, who see little need to speed things up, can make the choice to find this alignment later. Like I said before, and I'd like to repeat again, is that when I read in Right Use of Will the line that says, express everything you feel, I began to talk about my feelings. And I thought that was the right use of will. But it's not. I am not denying thinking here. But I think thinking is so much more ahead of itself that the will is like way, way, way behind. So the thought needs to stop and just be present. It's a big difference. The minute will appears, the spirit turns from thinking, or you're upstairs, will be replaced by presence. You simply are fully present. You can't actually be even present without feeling. So the need for this alignment with the will, just to even discover the will, then comes a stage of acceptance, because there are some feelings that are not going to be easy to accept. You could just ask, did you find any feelings that you really don't want to feel? That's them. And also to watch for the mind that goes and quickly establish its impotence, saying, oh well, what's the big deal here, right? That is the part of the mind that wants to protect itself from its rule, from its being above the whole thing. Or even the one that's completely disconnected from the self and it's living in some kind of holy fantasy of some God and, the light and but it's all just mental or imagination. What I'm talking about is not imagination at all. This is a real thing. This teaching is indeed to be a manual for those who wish to speed up the process of reclaiming the natural heritage or inheritance given to all at the time of creation. Ta-da! Yeah. So, as we begin to allow feelings to express as they need to express, not how I think I should express it, or a method that's been devised for them to express. When I step back and let the feeling do its thing, the feeling will guide me. When that happens, there's no injuries, there's no shocks, there's nothing. It just moves. It moves me. I feel taken. Yeah. And then feeling moves. All I have to do is step back and actually just be present. Be truly, truly present. The information given here may not all be new information to you. There can also be a trap because you go like, yeah, I know all this. I remember once I lent this book to somebody. It's like, oh yeah, I know all about Atlantis and Lemuria. It's like, right. But the way Atlantis and Lemuria is described in these books, and particularly in this first book, is like no other. It really defines it very differently. Not only that, if we allow ourselves this particular emotional movement that I'm talking about, the memories of these civilizations will also become a part of your daily movement. Not only that, you'll be able to remember even before that, and even before that, and then you will begin to be able to remember before there was any physicality at all, and then you will be able to remember even before that. You might be able to remember before mind was. And one actually will need to be able to go there, because that's where the original separation took place. This can be kind of a scary thing. It's like, oh, hang on a second, where do I go before my mind existed, before I could name everything and put everything together in my head so I feel comfortable enough to survive? But there's a lot that happened before that. So there were no words at that time. So if we think thinking is so very important and what we think we know, well, what if you go before that even existed? Which you can clearly see when a child is born, huh? Like what's their predominant expression? Definitely not thinking, right? That actually shows us that somewhere before thought was, before we were told to think, introduced to thinking, that was something else. And what was that? Yeah, what does a child have? It has a sound, hopefully. It has a movement. And it moves without being controlled. When it cries, it cries. When it smiles, it smiles. When it's happy, it's happy. When it's unhappy, it's unhappy. And it does not have this system of thought that tells it to be any different than it is. So then we can see that thought came later and begin to be organized. So we got this lovely two people with us, or one parent sometimes, or that begin to give us all these thoughts, all this programming, all these ideas, and then the society will and the friends will, and here we go. Now we're just loaded by thought systems, then we read books, we think we know even more. But this emotional part of ourselves has been really programmed from very early to stop. You cry, what do? Put a little some food into you, or move you around and throw you in the air and distract you in any possible way to discontinue your expression. So now all of that in us, from the very childhood, been told don't be this, don't be that. We apologize for crying. Sometimes we apologize for being in stitches and laughing, out of control. Yeah. So this emotional or deep feeling level of expression has been controlled from the very beginning of our existence as we know ourselves as a body, or as who you think you are or were when you were born. However, when we look at it from another perspective, is that you were not alive only when you came out of the womb, and there's a lot that happened before that. And so whatever the state the parents might have been together with, you were getting imprints of those moods and qualities and thought patterns and structures and fears and unexpressed emotions and feelings and trauma and I don't know what, yeah, already before that. If the mother couldn't express it, well, you had it for lunch. So all of this imprinting has occurred. Now, that's what I'm saying. You can start remembering way before, until we get to the original cause, the original creation. Yeah. So this manual for those who wants to speed up the process of reclaiming the natural inheritance given to all at the time of creation. So this will lead us to way before we can remember, and then quite clearly see what happened there. But we won't see it so much mentally as we see it experientially. So the information given here will not be all new information to you, but it is meant to outline the steps necessary to recover the powers of the will. Also clarify the expression of willpower is very different to powers of the will. This outline will enable you to see where you are on this path, and most likely will help you go further. Yeah, so that's the chapter 1. It's not actually numbered as a chapter 1, but it was the next chapter after the introduction. And interesting enough, the chapter 2, which I just mentioned, goes straight into clearing illness and habits. Isn't that interesting? Why would that be? Because the healthier we are, the easier we're going to be able to do this. So I think it's a very smart move here to look at what how to clear illness and habits, which actually says that it is the habits that we really need to look at, because they are the cause that will clear and help with illness. So I will talk about that and read through it in the next podcast. So thank you for listening, and we'll be hearing from me soon. Alrighty.